Hey guys, I'm Andrew with thedirtytank.com, and today I'm going to talk about how you can breed fish for profit. So if you've been in the hobby for a little bit, maybe you're starting to acquire more and more fish tanks, right? Like me, I have close to 30 fish tanks. And maybe you're trying to support the hobby, maybe you have more fish than you can handle. Maybe you just enjoy breeding shrimp and fish, and you just got to figure out, okay, how can I sell this to people now? So I currently do this. I've been doing it for a number of years. And most recently, I've expanded to doing it online as well and shipping and selling across the country. And so I'm really going to dive into the 3 main ways you can sell your fish or plants or shrimp, whatever it may be. All right, so 3 main ways you can sell fish, right, for profit. You can do it online, in person, or a combination of the 2. And of course, there's branches within each one on who you sell it to and how much you can make and all of that. But first, let's start at the very beginning, right? You're gonna need the right setup. And if you're at this stage, if you're already watching this video, chances are you have the setup, right? You probably have extra fish or extra shrimp, but I kind of want to talk about not everything that you need, because some of it's obvious, but some of those more important things that you want to make sure you have to make breeding fish easier, right, to do. One, I think you're going to need a sponge filter, right? I don't think sponge filters are the best form of filtration. I don't, but I do think they're best in terms of breeding, because they're not going to suck up your fish, your baby fish, or your baby shrimp, and they're just more gentle on fish in general, right? The other thing I think you're really going to need is a heater, right? Some fish, they can withstand a wide range of temperature, but only when it gets a little bit warmer do they start to get in breeding mode. And so you're going to want a heater that you can adjust, right? Maybe you normally keep your tanks around 76 degrees. Well, a lot of fish are going to like it around that 78, 79, 80 degree mark to really start getting into baby making mode, right? So you're going to want to make sure you have an adjustable heater. The other thing you're going to want to have is some way of monitoring your pH, because same thing with the heater. Some fish, they can withstand a wide range of pH right within the water, but they really start breeding closer to 4 or closer to 7 or whatever it may be. And so depending on your fish, you're gonna have to do research, right, on what specific pH needs for breeding that fish, not for keeping it alive, but for breeding it in particular. And so once you know that, then you just gotta know, okay, what pH is my water? And you can kind of work within those parameters to make it optimal for your fish to feel happy and get into breeding mode. So let's talk about the next step. Once you have the process, right, and you have all the stuff that you need, next thing is normally making sure you have the right fish that will sell. And generally what I sell a ton of is gonna be plants. And so I think, this is crazy, we're talking about breeding fish and all of a sudden I'm bringing up plants. But plants is probably gonna bring in a ton of traffic to where then you will sell fish. I don't know how many times I was selling dwarf water lettuce and people came to my garage or they were checking out on my online store and they ended up adding all these other fish and shrimp to their order as well. And so plants is a great way to just drive things in. And there's another strategy of why you should have plants that I'm going to talk about a little bit later as well. But plants are a great product to have if you're looking to sell fish. They just help bring in that customer that maybe wasn't looking for fish originally, but decide to buy it, right? And so some other good options are cherry shrimp just in general, whether they're a mono shrimp or a cherry shrimp, or any kind of Neos or Caridina shrimp, they sell like crazy. The other fish you can look into is some of your live bears. They're really easy to produce, but you aren't gonna make a lot of money from. This is a good one to maybe just make a few bucks every now and then. But what I found really sells are different types of dwarf cichlids, right? And And really there's a market for just about any fish. You got to figure out what you're good at growing and what your market likes to buy, whether that's angelfish or pufferfish or oddballs or plecos. But I like to stick with my live bears, my dwarf cichlids, and shrimp, and that has done very well for me so far. Now, once you have your setup, and then once you have your fish that you are choosing to breed, and sometimes you'll choose a fish and they just won't produce for you. You can't make it happen. You know, there's nothing wrong with, you know, changing directions. I've done that plenty of times. It happens. But now let's talk about, and probably what everyone's wondering is, you know, how do you actually sell these fish? How do you actually sell the shrimp? And there's a few ways to do it, right? You can do it in person or online, or a combination of two. And so let's talk about the in-person first, because that's probably what a lot of people are gonna do, or at least start off doing, right? And so my number one recommendation for selling fish in person is to join a local fish club, right? I have a few different ways. Joining a local fish club is gonna be your best though. So an easy way to find a local fish club is go to your Facebook and type in fish club and then your city name. And it's gonna pull up all the fish clubs that are in your city. And there's tons of fish groups on Facebook. You're not looking just for a group. You're looking for an actual club, a club that meets on a monthly basis. And then what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna join that group, and you wanna see when they meet, right? Now you can't sell live fish on Facebook. And so the great part about that is you are now a part of a group that will meet off-site somewhere in your area that you can drive to and sell your fish. Traditionally, the way a fish club works is they have a meeting. Normally it's once a month. It could be more, could be less. They normally have a speaker talk about something, and then they have an auction, right? And in the auction, you can buy other people's fish. You can sell your own fish. And this is just a great way to sell some of your extra fish. So once a month, right, as you're raising up your shrimp or your fish, you can bag them up, you can take them to your local auction, and you can sell them. Now, the thing about selling it to, or selling at an auction at your club is that normally the club is going to take a fee for you selling. And so most clubs are around that 10 to 20%, right? So if you make $100 and they take 10%, well, you're getting $90, right? If they take 20%, well, it's gonna be a little bit more. You're gonna get $80. And either way, you're still making money that maybe you weren't anyways, right? And since the club is kind of putting all that together, yeah, they deserve their cut for kind of facilitating that and creating an environment to where you can sell your fish. And so selling in person, a great way is to join your local club. Every time I sold fish at my local club, I've sold all of them, right? I never had to come back with my fish. Every single fish I brought, I end up selling. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be the case for you, right? It does happen where things just don't sell, but you have really good chances of selling to a lot of different people, right? And the more popular that club is, the more people are going to be there, and the more likelihood that, yes, you're going to sell your fish. Now, the next way to sell fish in person is to post it on Nextdoor or on Facebook Market page. Now, you're thinking, okay, Andrew, you just said you can't sell live fish on Facebook, and you can't. And that's where we go back to live plants. You can sell plants on Facebook, right? And so my strategy is pretty simple. I advertise dwarf water lettuce or duckweed or Salvinia minima or red root floater, right? All these floating plants that are incredibly easy to grow, but none of your big box pet stores sell floating plants. They just don't do it. And so your competition is really low. And so it's really an easy way to bring people in that are interested in fish. And so what typically happens is someone wants to buy $5 worth of dwarf water lettuce from me. When they come meet me here, because I always do pickup, take them into my garage. I have 18 tanks in my garage, and they see all the tanks and they start asking about fish. fish, right? And all of them are for sale, obviously. And so you can easily turn a $5 floating plant sell into a $60 sell, right? Because all of a sudden they want to buy 5 or 6 cherry shrimp, they want to buy a few guppies, they like these plecos that you have too, and all of a sudden you are now selling your shrimp and fish, right? And so Facebook Market is a great way to sell fish. Even though you won't be listing fish, you'll be listing these other plants, whether it's stem plants or swords or floating plants, which I think work best. Another good plant that you could sell is guppy grass, because a lot of your big box pet stores do not sell guppy grass. And a lot of people want them, especially if they want their baby fry to live. They can buy some guppy grass from you. And guppy grass is so easy to grow. It just grows by itself. And that's the genius and the best part about this, is that these plants that I'm talking about, they're incredibly easy to grow, right? They don't require nutrient-rich substrate. They don't require high-intensity light. They don't require a fertilizer regimen. No, you just throw them in there and it's gonna grow, period. And so listing your aquatic plants for sale online is a great way to also sell your fish, right, in person. Now, the other way to sell fish in person is to sell it to your local fish store. Now this is a little bit more difficult to do, and the reason being is that generally a fish store isn't going to want to buy your fish unless you have a lot of that fish, right? Because when they buy your fish, there's going to be issues with your fish, period, right? And so they're not going to buy 1, 2, 10, 15 fish from you, right? Unless they're some really high dollar fish, right? And so generally, if you're going to sell to a fish store, you kind of want to have a somewhat of a breeding operation going on, to where you can bring them, 50 angels every month, right? 30 rams every single month, right? And so it needs to be something that makes sense to the business, right? Because if you come up to me and say, hey, I got 20 of these fish and that's all I have, right? I just know I'll pass up. But if you tell me you have 20 of these fish and you breed them like clockwork every month, and you already have growing tanks for each stage of their life, and for the next 6 months, you can easily see each month getting another batch of 20 to 50 to 60 of these fish, then I'll say, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, right? And the other thing, if you're going to sell to the fish store, not only do you want to make sure you kind of have a system in place, right? It's not just a one-off thing. The other thing is that you're not going to make as much money, right? You may make 50, 60, 70, 80% less than what you could make if you've done it just straight retail, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, right? So if you've got a lot of fish and maybe you're an introverted person, you don't like talking to people, you don't like having to respond back to people's Facebook posts, you don't want to go in person to auctions, you don't like any of that, right? You don't like leaving your house, then yeah, that may be an option for you, because you just have to, meet a few store owners, right? Get one of them to finally say, yeah, once you have a system in place. And then you just drop them off, right, each month or whatever the schedule may be. And so that is a possibility, but you're not going to make as much money, period. And so that is something that I kind of have on the back burner for me. But currently, I don't have an issue selling my fish, and I'm very fortunate for that. And when we get to selling fish online, I'll kind of dive into how you can make sure you always have customers coming to you to buy your fish. It takes a lot of work, but it's a very simple process to kind of put in motion. So those are the main ways to sell fish in person, right? So let's talk about how you can sell fish online, right? Now, if you're gonna sell fish online, you gotta understand that you gotta have your process down for shipping, right? You gotta have your process down for communication. And you gotta kind of wanna make sure you don't take any shortcuts in that shipping process. You gotta know what you're doing, and it's not that difficult. There's no secrets. You can look them up on YouTube. I'll probably make a shipping video so that you can see exactly my process, but it's not difficult. You just have to do it correctly, right? Because there's lots of expenses. You're gonna have to buy the right bags. You're gonna have to buy the right heat pads. You want to buy heat pads that last for a while. You don't want a 1 hour heat pad. It's not gonna do anything. You want to make sure you have insulated boxes, right? You have to make sure you have the right size boxes. You have to make sure you tie the bags correctly. You want to make sure you double bag, right? There's so many different things. You want to make sure you fast your fish, right? And so there's a lot of different things that you have to make sure that you do. It's easy to cut corners, but when you do, your fish isn't going to make it there alive. And when it doesn't make it there alive, you're going to have upset customers, which means you're going to have to refund them. Or if you don't, they're going to badmouth you to everyone, because they should, because I think you should refund them if they didn't make it, because normally it is your problem if the fish doesn't make it. Because in my opinion, fish will 95 to 98% of the time will always make it there alive, even if there's a delay, period. Now, things are gonna happen, and it always does. But that small amount of time when it does happen, when something does go wrong, just refund them, because 95 to 98% of the time, things are gonna go right if you do it correctly. So in this video, we're not gonna talk about how to ship correctly, but I just wanna make sure that's a good point that you really focus on if you decide to sell fish online. So let's talk about how you can sell fish online. So you could set up a website, like I have, and that's a really easy way to sell fish online. But generally I would say you want to start somewhere else. Normally you want to maybe create a Facebook page. You can advertise that you do shipping on Facebook, and I think there's a little button for shipping. It makes it really easy to do it off of Facebook, but you can't sell live fish on Facebook, right? And the other thing is that, maybe you have a TikTok and an Instagram where you kind of show all the different fish that you have, and they can email you, or they can submit a Google Doc form of the fish that they want, and you're able to email back and forth the prices. And so that's a little bit sketchier, but that's how a lot of people do buy fish, right? Without having to set up a website, is they're able to just kind of talk with you. And so it's a lot more labor intensive. You're gonna have to talk, you're gonna have to email, or text back and forth to make sure you know what they want, that you send them pictures, all of those things. So not having a website just makes it a little bit more difficult, but you can do it that way. Another way you can sell online is through eBay. Now, if you sell through eBay, they're normally gonna take a small percentage of the deal, but you'll know what that is up front. The downside to eBay is that your competition is right there next to you. And so it's difficult to sell on eBay, not impossible, people do it all the time, but it's difficult to sell at the prices that you really want to sell at, because you just have people saying, no, I'm gonna sell it for less and less and less. And generally, once you're on eBay, your mindset is, let me find this fish at the best possible price, right? And that's why I personally like to have my own website, right? Your competition's a little bit further away, right? They're still all over on the internet or, in the store. But if you have your own website, you kind of just in your own little box for that moment of time while they're searching for fish. But eBay is a great way to start out to kind of sell your fish. Now, there's other websites, I'm not going to talk about those, but there's tons of other websites where you can also sell your fish that are kind of like an eBay, but specifically for fish. And you can definitely sell them on there as well. Now, if you're going to sell online, you're really going to want to put high quality pictures, and a lot of them. You're gonna really want to write a great description, right, of your fish. And the other thing is you're gonna wanna make sure you buy your fish right? Because if you buy if you buy a fish for $10 and retail, it costs $10, then you can't sell a $10 fish for $20. It's not gonna happen. But if you get a $10 fish and you buy it for $5, yeah, then you can do that, right? Or if you bred your fish and you bought a $30 fish and it had 300 babies and 200 of them survive, yeah, you can sell them for $30. You can even sell them for $1, right? For $10. You kind of got your level of choosing because you have all these extra fish that are made worth $30 that essentially you made for somewhat free, right? To an extent. And so there's a lot of different ways to sell fish online, right? Whether it's your own website or whether you're just posting pictures on, Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and waiting for people to reach out to you, and you kind of do a back and forth thing, or whether it's eBay or some of those other marketplaces, tons of ways ways to do it. Now, how you do it, it doesn't really matter, right? Obviously, I have my preference, and you'll get, depending on where you go, you'll have somewhat of an edge, depending on some. But what really matters is how you get yourself out there, right? Because I think that's what matters the most whenever you are selling fish online, right? Is really getting your name out there, getting your face out there, getting your fish out there for people to even know you exist. And that's normally the hardest part. And there's 3 ways to do that. One is going to be search engine optimization, right? Where maybe you write a lot of blog posts, or you make sure to put very specific keywords on how people are searching this particular fish, so that your search result is the first thing that comes up. Your profile is the first thing that comes up. The other way is paid advertisement, right? You can run Google ads, you can run Facebook ads, you can run TikTok ads, saying that you sell these fish, right? And that's one way to get your name out there, but that costs money, right? And if you're not sure if you're even gonna sell fish, I don't know if you wanna pay for ads, right? But that will drive traffic. And the third way, and it's my personal favorite, and the way I drive all my traffic to my website and sell the fish that I sell, is organic content marketing. And so when you hear that, it sounds all fancy, but all that means is I post videos to social media. That's it. That's what that means. And why I love this way of doing, I guess, getting your name out there, of marketing, is because it allows you to put your own advertisement, get your name out there for free, period. You make a TikTok, thousands of people are gonna see it. You make a really good TikTok, millions of people are gonna see it, okay? You make a good Facebook reel, hundreds of thousands of people are gonna see it. You make a really good one, millions, right? And same with Instagram, same with YouTube Shorts, right? It's really easy to grab your phone, make a 30, 40-second video, post it, and then get thousands to millions of views. Now, if you've never done this before, you're not gonna do very well. And that part doesn't matter, right? Because you're not looking to get views per se, you're looking to get people purchasing your fish, right? And if you have a video that gets 1 million views, but it didn't drive any traffic to your website because it's just a funny video, but didn't drive any traffic, then you didn't make any sales. But if you have a video that got 400 views and you got 6 purchases from it, then it was, in theory, better than that 1 million view video, period. Because that 400 view video, it got you the purchases, right? And so you kind of have to think of it that way. And as you're doing it, especially if this is your first time kind of making those type of videos, you just know that you're not going to be good at it to begin with. But as you do it, and I recommend doing every single day, make a 30-second video about your fish room, about aquatic plants, whatever it happens to be, about updates, right? Every single day, you're gonna drive a ton of traffic to your page, which will then go to your website or to your eBay or to your email or text, to where they can say, hey, this is the kind of fish I want. How much will it cost to ship it? Do you still have them? Can you send me pictures? All of that, right? And so if you're gonna do online, not only do you have to have your shipping process down, right, but you have to have your name out there. And the best way, in my opinion, is organic content marketing. Posting videos for free. You don't have to pay for that. And so that's how I get most of all my traffic, right? I post videos on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all of it, right? And that drives the majority of my traffic to my website, and therefore purchases, right? A funny story, I got an email from my website host, Wix. I use Wix for my website. And they say, congratulations, you drove 88 clicks from Google search, or 28 clicks this month from Google search. That means in 1 month, only 28 people from Google clicked on my website, right? 28 people, but yet I get hundreds of people going to my website, thousands of people going to my website, hundreds a week, right? Which tells me that my organic content marketing is where 99% of all my clicks are coming from, and only 28 clicks, right? Maybe that 1 or 2% is coming from Google search. And so I tell you that to say how effective organic content marketing is. And you don't have to pay for that. You have to put in the work, but you don't have to pay for that at all. And so if you're going into fish breeding, you may not have known it, but posting on social media is going to be a big part of selling your fish, right? And if you're not up for it, yes, you can still make money in person at your Facebook clubs, over Facebook Market, Nextdoor. Those will still make you an income. But if you're looking to make a little bit more, generally you're going to have to sell online. And in order to sell online, you're going to have to get your name out there. Best way to get your name out there is posting on social media. It's kind of how it works. And that's how to breed fish for profit, whether you're doing it in person or online. I also write a weekly newsletter. So if you're interested in breeding fish for profit, or just knowing how to breed fish in general, or learning about different kinds of fish, I have a newsletter that comes out a couple times a week on how you can become a better fish keeper in 10 minutes or less per week, that you can join. Just go ahead and click the description below. It's completely free. It will ask you for a paid option. You can pay and have a subscription if you want, but you're under no obligation to do so. You can access it for free if you wish. If you like this video, let me know in the comments down below if I should make more videos, maybe about the shipping process or my fry grow out system, or any of those type of videos that you think may be helpful, that you may be interested in. Thanks guys, and I'll see you next time.